All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we're going through Proverbs 6, verses 16 through 19. Let's get it. There are six things that the Lord hates, seven that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. I feel like a lot of this was talked about in the Proverbs that came right before this, but quick interpretation, guys, this is really simple. God hates pride. That's what I looked up, haughty eyes. That's what it meant. I mean, like highs that kind of raise up or are high, kind of top eyes. You know what? It's pride. Eyes that are set on a very high point in life, set to achieve a lot, but for the sake of gratifying oneself as well. Haughty eyes was used to refer to pride. So God hates pride. He hates lying. He hates people who shed innocent blood, hearts focused on wicked plans, and people who run towards evil. He hates false witnesses who lie and people who sow discord among brothers. So, what's really interesting about this is lying is on here twice, and I think one of them is just lying about personal things, and one is lying about somebody else doing something that they didn't do, right? Like bearing false witness, or just lying about yourself or something that, you know, you've done or haven't done, right? So, I think that's why lying's in there twice, two different types of lying, but God hates these things. And the entrepreneurial application of this, it was hard to extract an entrepreneurial lesson out of this. But what I found, and this is definitely coming from my beliefs, I believe we are all made in the image of God. God puts desires in our heart, and ultimately, we are all on earth seeking God. And because of that, we love what he loves and we hate what he hates. And so when it says God hates this, there's no mystery to me that these are also things that the majority, basically everybody, the majority of people also hate these things. Like nobody really likes somebody who's super prideful or who's a liar or people who shed innocent blood. Nobody likes people who pick on innocent people, and that's not even shedding their blood, but it's just picking on them. So if we don't like people who pick on innocent people, we definitely don't like people who shed the blood of innocent people, right? We don't like people who are only focused on doing evil, or people who are quick to run towards evil, or people who bear false witness. We have a whole court system where there's a law against bearing false witness because we don't like it. And we also don't like people who sow discord amongst brothers who gossip and are always trying to start drama. Like, no people like that. And it's crazy that we don't like the things that God doesn't like. And I think it's because at our root, our human nature is to love what God loves and to hate what God hates. And so the entrepreneurial application of this is listen to these things, Christian or not. We know that people don't like these things. So don't be prideful. Don't be a liar. Don't shed innocent blood or pick on innocent people or just do wicked things to innocent people. Don't devise evil things in your heart. Don't run towards evil things. Don't bear false witness and don't sow discord, create conflict amongst brothers and sisters when it's not needed, right? If you run your business and you try to do the opposite of those things, you run a business with humility that's based on truth, that is to encourage, uphold, and support and protect innocent people with a heart focused on righteous plans, with somebody who runs towards righteousness, towards greatness, towards love, with people who only tell the truth and never sow discord, but always seek to create unity, right? When you run a business like that, it hits different. And so now it's not that you're not doing these things, but you're doing the exact opposite. Alex Hormozy talks a little bit about this, but if you want to know how to live a good life, just think about how to live an absolutely horrible life and do the exact opposite of that. Because it's easy for our mind to imagine really negative things, but it's hard for us to focus on positive things. And so use your natural state to your advantage. You think about those negative things, but think about them in a positive light in the sense that you're using them to get to the positive outcome. So it's like, okay, I know everybody hates a liar, so I'm always going to tell the truth. Boom. That's probably something good to live by. I know everybody doesn't like people who run towards evil, and running towards evil is a surefire way to not run a good business or end up in jail. So I'm going to run towards good things. Also, probably a good rule of thumb. So, the entrepreneurial application is to realize that the stuff that God hates, people also hate, and that you can not only not be those things, but be the exact opposite, and people will love what you're bringing to the table. So, where has this shown up in my life? I want to talk a little bit about true humility for my life. And it's not that I am truly humble, but it is that my idea around humility has changed because of something Alex Hormozy said, but also just lining it up with the Bible. It's not, um, the Bible doesn't talk about like degrading yourself or not thinking highly of yourself. Like God Himself, because Jesus went to the cross, looks at us and sees Christ, right? And so for us to degrade ourselves would be degrading the power of the cross. But humility often is talked about as lowering oneself, right? And Alex Hormozy brought up the point, and I think it was actually a definition that C.S. Lewis, he was quoting C.S. Lewis in his YouTube video, maybe. He was quoting somebody, might have been C.S. Lewis. But he brought up the fact that true humility is not lowering one's perspective of oneself, but raising the perspective and reverence and respect that you give to everybody else above what you give yourself. And so if you're giving yourself 110% respect, give the next person 111% respect. And in that way, you are able to walk in God's promises for your life, but then also understand how deep God's promises for other people run and then treat them like that, like God would, with love, not insisting on your own way, right? So if God can look at us and see Christ, we can look at other people and see the beauty in them. And if you're not Christian, just focus on the beauty in people. There are always good things and there are always bad things to focus on with people, and just choose to focus on the good. And you'll be able to kind of raise your perspective of that person above the perspective you have of yourself. Then I also want to talk about the flip side of this, selfishness. And I think selfishness shows up a lot in my life. And when it comes to, let's see, haughty eyes, I think I get prideful. Like I shoot big and I go big and I think I'm going after it. I think part of that may come from insecurity, right? And because I'm trying to protect insecurity, it comes out in the form of pride. And so ultimately, when I get to that point of humility, where it's like, I'm not insecure, I know I'm whole, but I'm just raising you above my wholeness because I think you are also whole and are meant to overflow, right? When I can make that shift, that's when I'll step out of selfishness. But as I'm still growing and dealing with my own insecurity and still trusting what God has put over my life, I am dealing with, the selfishness that runs from the haughtiness and the pride. And let's see, I really try not to lie, definitely don't shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked plans, this is also where my selfishness comes into play. I wouldn't say anything I devise is wicked, but I would say small thinking is wicked to an extent. Like it talks about a little slumber, a little sleep, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. A worthless person and wicked man goes about with crooked speech. Anytime I am speaking negatively about myself or another person, that is wicked. And so that is a heart devising wicked plans for myself or for that other person, such as, I can't do this. I'm not able to do this. Focused on fear, that is wickedness. And it's not something that we call out a lot in our society here in the US, but it is wicked nonetheless because you are taking away from somebody. You are speaking with crooked speech. It is not to uplift. It is not to support. It is not to speak God's word over somebody. It's to, play to their fears, which happens a lot, frankly, because we're all playing to our own fears most of our days. So that's where it has shown up in my life. Where do I want this to show up in my life? I want to have a heart focused on righteous plans and basically be the opposite of all of this, right? Be humble, tell the truth all the time, um, uplift innocent people, not shedding their blood. I want to have heart that is focused on righteous plans, not wicked plans. I want to be a person who runs towards righteousness, not run towards evil. And I want to bear true witness, not false witness. And I never want to sow discord, but I want to create unity. Like that's the person I want to be. And I think a lot of that is just getting to know God better. And most of us don't struggle with a lot of this. Like we don't, our hearts aren't bending towards especially wicked stuff. But I think some of the stuff we've normalized in society is wicked. Like I don't think anybody listening to this podcast is out here shedding innocent blood. Like I just don't think that's the case. But Do we pick on innocent people? Do we take advantage of innocent people in our life? I think that's the case because humans are manipulative. And so you got to look at where you're doing that, probably in small ways, probably in ways that seem inconsequential, but where's your heart in that moment? I think that's where the battle is for most of us today. And for those of you who may be out there really prideful, really lying, well, let this verse take you to task, right? And so that's where I want it to show up in my life. How can you guys apply this to your life? I would say pick one of these and start developing that characteristic. Like start praying for and going towards humility, honesty, unity, being truthful in the witness that you're bearing, running towards righteousness, having a heart focused on righteous plans. Like start focusing on one of those and just applying it to your life, not shedding innocent blood, but really doing the opposite of it and uplifting innocent people, not picking on innocent people. Because again, shedding innocent blood, that may be more for biblical times, but there's still some people that do it today. Like murder happens, but that's not the topic of this podcast. Entrepreneurial application, life application, and for the majority of us, that does not apply. So, yeah, just take that what it is, do the opposite of the things in these verses, pick one of them, apply it to your life, grow, become who God called you to be. And if you don't believe in God, hey, no pressure. I'm just speaking from wisdom that I'm finding in the Bible. It's good stuff in here. Maybe you should read it sometime. But again, you know, be who you were put on the planet to be. Whether you believe in God or not, a lot of us are called to something and we feel like we're put here for a reason, or we feel like we need to find that reason. And I encourage you to do one, both, or all of it, and just become who you're meant to become. That's my encouragement to you. Take it for what it is. Thank you guys for listening to the show. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.